talk to you a bit about this attunement. And I know some people feel that Reiki is mystical and that kind of stuff, but there is science behind it. But I found it hard, honestly, to get my head around what was going to happen today for this attunement. One reason for that was because I felt, although they say Reiki can be given as a distance healing therapy, because the universal energy is everywhere, in my head that didn't feel like it might work. In my head, literally up until the last minute of me laying down here, I was feeling like, what am I going to feel? What is it going to be like? How is this going to affect me? Now, I made a cup of tea and had a piece of chocolate. Two things I shouldn't have done. I should have cleansed for a week beforehand, should have meditated every day. But having watched videos and what have you on people who went through their first attunement process, a lot of them said it left them feeling very up here and very floaty and very detached, very emotional, because the first attunement is about purging of toxins and what have you, removing blockages, that kind of thing. And I know I'm already a very floaty person, emotional, sensitive, incredibly sensitive person. So I felt that actually I needed things like my tea, which has caffeine in it, the odd bit of chocolate and what have you, to ground me, as opposed to having me floating. So I've not stopped eating meat or anything like that for the week beforehand, because those are the sorts of things that actually will bring me back. Having some of the toxins will keep me grounded, but releasing all of those things completely and having completely clean would potentially have me floating. It's the only way I can describe it. Anyway, I settled myself down. I want to talk about this as a kind of, I'm going to do this as a separate video. I wanted to do this to talk about how this first attunement has felt to me. I had music playing. I've had some candles lit. I had my rose quartz, which I wanted to place. Initially, I felt like I should place here, and I placed it here, and then I wanted to move it to my solar plexus, and I don't know why that was, but it felt right, so I did it. And then I chose not to use the onyx. My broken wand and my rose quartz thumbstone I had in my hand. And I'm going to write down and draw images after I've spoken to you about how it felt. But very quickly I had an image of a sunset type sky, maybe a beach, I don't know. Had that feel about it, but I couldn't see the sea. And then a figure coming in on the left hand side, just an outline of a figure coming towards me. And then I felt light coming up, almost like mini geysers, but gentle, of white light coming up from sort of areas of the ground. I felt, in my mind, I saw a tree-lined avenue with a bright light at the end of it. I saw, the really interesting one was coming out of my center, so I think probably my solar plexus, not my chest. No, it was my chest actually, because now I know the process that somebody who is performing Reiki is going to start the process, because I've been learning it, so I know they're going to travel down my body and what have you. So I could have subconsciously had that as a thought process going through my mind, possibly, but suddenly in my chest, and it was about maybe 10 minutes in, so potentially around the time that somebody could have moved to the chest area, I felt this intense feeling in my chest, which I hadn't felt before, and it started to remove itself. And this was while all these lights were what I was picturing in my mind, and I was allowing the images to come. So I wasn't thinking, I wasn't trying to look for images. The images come, and that is my meditation. Well, I don't know if it's the same for everybody, but I go to sleep every night focusing on an image, which is a tree, and it's usually the bark. It's usually oak, and I don't know why. And then once I have attuned my brain to focusing and imagining that, I can see it in my eyes with my eyes closed. At that point, I start to get other images just flowing in, and it's like a movie, a silent movie. And it's really, I love just seeing where those images go, and I keep thinking I should write them down, but then I doze off and I've gone to sleep and I sleep, and then quite often I've forgotten them in the morning. But I think all of those images mean something, and they can be the most random things that have nothing to do with what I've done in the day, or they're not a conscious thought. And this is what this process felt like for me, very similar to that process that I go through at bedtime. And yeah, as I had that feeling on my chest, I had an image of a ball, a pulsing ball, that had not angel wings, but the outline of what could be an angel wing. No flapping, nothing like that. This pulsing ball, and it just, with these sort of angel wings, went up and had gone. And I would say in the last 7 or 8 minutes of this process, my mind wandered completely away from these images, and I found myself clicking into conscious thought. Well, not conscious, but thinking about how I want to apply Reiki to the animals. And I started to think about, I started to have images of dogs. I had this image of one dog which was more terrier-like with a white face, and it was silhouetted against that background of the sort of sunsetty type sky. Just the side profile of it, its nose, its eye, a little ear, of this white terrier type dog. I started to picture myself and trying to think about how I would calm a dog, or how I would run a situation, where would be the best place to do this so that the dog is calm. Would I have the owner in with me, or would the owner be asked to leave? Now, I've not done the animal Reiki course yet, but these thoughts all just started to come to me, and then I don't remember anything. I had a feeling in my stomach as well, where the sort of in my solar plexus, where I had this crystal placed, and that felt, well, at that time, as I was aware of this feeling, and it wasn't a pain or anything like that, but there was a rumble in my belly, and I felt like this, and it made a noise, and I was like, oh, but my attention had been drawn to that area, and again, timing wise, performing a Reiki process on somebody, it would be within the time frame probably that they would have reached the solar plexus, I believe. I mean, obviously I wasn't looking at a clock. And then I suddenly had this, and I wasn't groggy, I wasn't sleepy, I just opened my eyes, and it was like, we're done. And I looked at the clock and it was exactly 20 past. And a lot of these processes take between 20 and 30 minutes. And in my head, I kind of had that it would take about 20 minutes. Excuse me. But I had this real alertness. I opened my eyes and I felt like we're done. So that was my process. Now, obviously, I don't know how it's going to affect me for the rest of the day. I've got the 21-day purge before I can go on to my second attunement. I'm going to sit and write and draw all of these things down, and I'm glad I'm filming this, and I'm going to share it with people, and hopefully people will find it interesting. And maybe people who've been doing Reiki for a long time will be able to give me some idea as to maybe what those processes are, or maybe some of what these images were. And I did have what I felt were symbols trying to come through, and I know that made me think suddenly, and I wasn't aware of it before, but that did make me kind of consciously think, I know they share images with you during the Reiki attunement. I've deliberately not looked online for Reiki symbols. And I'm just going to draw down what I saw in my mind, and they may correspond when I look at Reiki images later on, they may not, and I would be interested to see that, or possibly what those images, those symbols, those shapes might mean. I don't know, but I'm going to put them all down so I don't forget. So this is a good way for me to share this with other people that might be interested, and it's also a way for me to document this process. So yeah, there we go.